Okay, good morning. I am going to be showing you a little bit about how I make a mask using a 5.5 hoop. This is a mighty hoop, which is a magnetic hoop, which makes life much easier if you do embroidery. But people are always asking me like what type of hoops I use for when I make masks, and it actually just depends on what I'm doing, what style I'm doing, what size I'm doing, because I do different sizes. And I use a 5x5 hoop, I use a 4x13, a 4.25 by 13, I use an 8x13, I use a 11 by 13. So it depends on what I'm doing, what style I'm doing. Sometimes I might even use the much bigger hoops to make a specific type of mask, like in a sort of like mass produced. So I'm just going to show you real quick about how I am making a mask using a 5.5. So this is I think this is 2.5 stabilizer. It's 2.5 ounce weight stabilizer that I'm using. And this is, I don't know if you can use, this is not scuba fabric. This is called, I think it's called gabardine. And it's just a gabardine polyester fabric that I like to use sometimes. I use different types of fabrics as well. I don't have like one type of fabric that I use. So I'm using this spray adhesive. And I use spray adhesive just because when you lay this fabric on here and it sticks to the stabilizer, it will stabilize it even more. And I feel like this is one pretty good way of preventing puckering. I don't get too much puckering in my embroidery. Sometimes I do, but not too much anymore. And I think it's because maybe the stabilizer I use, and maybe also using some spray adhesive. I know if you use a lot of spray adhesive, you have to be careful because it will gunk up your machine. So what I do is I have a little spray bottle of nail polish remover, and I'll spray my needles and make sure I get that gunk off. So I'm just going to spray that. And then put this and I'm making a Wonder Woman mask today. It is half blue and half of the Wonder Woman fabric. So you just kind of lay this nice and flat. Make sure there's like any kind of bunches or little pockets, bubble pockets, you kind of just smooth it out. And then you put you can put it the tab facing up or this tab facing up. It really doesn't matter. I like to put this tab facing up. It's just a habit. Just when I have bigger hoops, it's better to leave this tab down. But I actually just have it. You put it under there like so, and then I always have this kind of facing up because this is how you insert it into the machine. And then that's it. And what you want is to make sure that there's no extra, when you kind of run your fingers over it, make sure there's like no extra fabric like gathering up, and if there is, you just want to give it a little tug, not too much. Make sure you tighten the fabric a little bit, but don't overdo it. And I'm pulling both the fabric and the stabilizer together. Just kind of once around to do that. Make sure it's good. And then now it's ready to put on the machine. We've taken it off the machine, and you can see that there are no puckers, not a pucker in sight. So I don't know if you can see that. Okay. So we're just going to unhoop it, and what I'm using is this pattern that I drew up myself. Now, coming to the point where you have a pattern that you're going to use constantly, and I'm always changing them all the time. Here we go here. All the patterns that I've drawn out, sizes, styles, whatever. This is only some of them. But this one is, I'm using this today because I have a bifold mask. So on one side, it's going to be the logo, and on the other side, it's going to be a picture of Wonder Woman. If you have this fabric, which is kind of hard to find, but you can make this mask. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to trace around. I have to make sure though that these are facing the right way, because if you don't face them the right way, then you're going to have like a backwards mask. So you need to make sure that it's either faced one way or the other. Make sure you're facing it the correct way. Alignment is actually going to be totally up to you on where you kind of want how you want the W to lay, whether you want it to face up, down, straight in the middle. So for me, I kind of have an idea. I have it folded right here, so about right here is where I want it. Well, maybe a little bit down. A little bit. Well, I'll fix it. And let me see if I have one on here. So, okay. Well, there's a bunch of different poses that she has on this piece of fabric here. This is the one that I like to use, but obviously I need a bigger piece, so I'll look for one and I will show you how to do that. But let me just make sure of something real quick. Let me make sure I have these going in the right direction. Okay, yeah, I do. Okay, so I'm going to want this going this way, and all I'm going to do is I cut a hole in the middle here so that I can see. If you have it like this and you're trying to cut something out, obviously you can't see how it's positioned underneath, but you know, I cut a hole out and put it there, and you just trace it. Oops. Got your line traced around and you cut it out. So I'm just going to put that to the side so I can find a suitable Wonder Woman. I think I may not find it on this one. Once I run out of this pose, then I may have to start using, well, I will start using these other poses. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my little stencil or pattern or template, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to position it in a way that I think will look nice on the mask. I mean, you can position it whatever way you want, but I did trace the outline. You have to make sure that they're going in the right direction because you want both of this part to face this part, because you got to sew the two together. So make sure, I've done it before. I've traced it backwards and cut it out backwards, and I had to start all over again. But so I think about right here. Just make sure it's like even in that. And let's see. Okay, I think this will be okay right here. So I'm just going to trace around it. And then I'm going to cut both of these out. So once you're done cutting them out, then this is what you should have. Them facing this way, and then you have some stabilizer. I have some stabilizer back here, so I'm just going to cut that out as well. You decide whether you want to cut it out or not. I think it's good to cut it out because you don't have stabilizer on this side, and I think it would be uneven, or not, I think it actually would be uneven if you didn't cut that stabilizer off. be like heavy on one side. So okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to put your two pieces right sides together, and then you're gonna sew about maybe 1/8 seam allowance along this line. And okay, and with that same pattern stencil, you are going to take fabric of your color that you want to be on the back or the inside, and you're going to cut two pieces out, and these pieces are going to be for the back of the mask or the inside of the mask. And you're going to put them together the same way. Doesn't matter, there's no like right sides on this one, they're both the same on both sides. You're gonna put them together, and you're gonna sew again about 1/8 along this line here, from here to here. The next thing you're gonna do is take your scissors and trim down this seam allowance. Just to remove some of the bulk in the mask. Okay, so you turn it inside out and you can see that the mask is starting to take shape. So you're going to take the back side, and this is right side in. You're going to lay with the seam allowance poking out and the mask right side facing. You're going to place this back part on the mask like this, and you're going to pin it together. Make sure everything aligns and pin it. Okay, so now we have the inside or back of the mask pinned down to the front of the mask. So what you're going to do is along the top line, you're going to sew about 1/8 seam allowance all the way across. Stop here. And on the bottom, you're going to do the same thing, 1/8 seam allowance all the way across, and stop there. Okay, start sewing, then back stitch. When I get to the middle here, I like to back stitch right here along the seams just to secure it, make sure it doesn't come apart. Then to the end, back stitch my thread, and we're good. And then I'm gonna turn it around and do the same thing on the top, exact same way. What you do here is, again, you can trim the seam allowance down, get rid of some of that bulk in the mask. This one, you don't need to trim too much, I don't think. So, after you do that, what you're going to do now is you're going to turn the mask inside out. Now this is a little bit tricky. So, okay, you can take it from the end here and then just kind of roll it in. Keep rolling. And there you go. I mean, you pretty much have a mask. There are a few things that you need. You need to put the ears on, and you need to you can use an iron. I sometimes just use my fingers. I'm going to show you how to secure the structure of the mask. To fold these raw edges in. That sounded weird. If you can see what I'm doing. Fold them in, and I just you can iron them. Most of the time I'll iron it flat. Fold it in, and then make sure it's still folded in. Then you take your ears, whatever ears you desire, and you put them in. Then I pin I just pin it to the back piece of fabric. I don't even pin it where you can see it here. Just pin it to the back piece and then get your other side of the ear. Put it in there like so. Maybe I'm pulling it down too far. And then just pin it down. And then you're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Once you pin the other side, you're going to do a stitch all the way around to stabilize the mask, all the way around at the very edge, all the way around. And I'll show you. Okay. Went off a little bit. Jesus. Oh, there we go. And as you're sewing along the edge, just kind of make sure the fabric is even, straight. You can take an iron to it on the outside of the fabric, no iron on top of it, just to make sure it lays flat so when you sew it, it's easier. I didn't do that this time, but we're just sewing all along the edge of the mask. Don't poke yourself with these needles. So, coming up to the earpiece. So when I get to the earpiece, I always do one sew and then back stitch on it. Make sure I secure that earpiece and it doesn't come out later on. Same here. Now we're just going to turn. We're going to go along the top of the mask now. And that's it. You have a completed Wonder Woman mask. Pretty simple. The back, oh, well, you need to cut the threads off, but you know.